Yo, we're back for UFC Fight Night 125. It's Lyoto Machida versus Eryk Anders. And we're just going to get right into it. The first fight of the night is Polyana Mota against Maya Stevenson, Joe Stevenson's wife. So that's pretty cool. But, Polyana Mota is the Brazilian in this matchup. They're both strawweights, and she's the Jungle Fight champion. She's coming over. This is going to be her first fight in the UFC. She's pretty well-rounded. She's been a finisher so far in her career. She has 4 KOs and 5 submissions. And she's 9-0, so all of her wins have been by submission. But she's definitely fought some questionable competition. And she's still developing in her stand-up. It's a bit loose, a bit open. She stands a little bit too tall, too. But she does have power, and she can throw punches pretty straight and accurate from time to time. Other times they can get a little loopy. But she definitely shows some... where she can get better. She could definitely show some raw skill, for sure. But she's definitely very tricky with her jiu-jitsu. She's a Mundial world champion. She'll attack with a lot of, very odd techniques like standing submissions, rear naked choke. She'll jump on the back. She'll try to get at, kimuras from your back standing. And she likes to pull guard, and she'll try to attack with arm bars. She has really slick setups for her arm bars. Gets her legs up extremely fast. Really a lot of dexterity. And you could tell that on the ground she's just really dangerous. And, for a woman that's pretty rare, the ability to finish a fight like that. And she definitely has that ability for sure. And, Stevenson's going to be traveling to Brazil, which is huge. Huge factor in this fight. I was looking up... some stats on that, and I saw that girls coming over from the USA to Brazil are 2-8-1, and the only 2 ones that have victories are Ronda Rousey and Marion Reneau. And Marion Reneau also has the draw too, so you could tell it's very hard to come over and get a win in Brazil. You saw that early on with the men as well, where they had this big streak where American men were losing a lot. Now it's evened out a little bit more, but it is definitely a thing, hostile territory, the jet lag, everything like that. Especially for someone that's, a pretty inexperienced fighter like Stevenson. But, she fought on Tough, the new season at 125. And, she's kind of been really inactive until 2016. She only fought 1 time a year. And then in 2016, she fought 6 times. And then 2017, she only fought the 1 time, but she was on Tough. She went through the whole show, all that. So... in 2016, she was 5-1 in the 6 fights when she was very active in the year. And her 1 loss was by TKO against someone that was 6-1. So she was fighting some pretty good competition in her loss. But the 6 people that she beat, their combined record was 0-23. So Stevenson is yet to fight someone and get a win over them that actually has a professional win. She's still never beaten someone with a professional win, which is... extremely questionable competition. And but she does have solid hands. She's quick with straight combinations. She was a boxer. She can counter off with sloppy punches. She cuts off the cage pretty well. Good cardio. Likes to grind you against the cage. But I think in this fight she definitely needs to avoid the clinching because Polyana is definitely very dangerous in that area. And with this being in Brazil, and Polyana I think is just a little bit better, a little bit more dangerous everywhere. Well, on the feet, Stevenson's definitely a little better, but I think that, the difference in the ground game is very big. And I'm going to go with Polyana Mota to get the submission in round 2 in that fight. And I'm pretty confident in that one. I think that's going to be a, pretty dominant victory, even if it's a decision for Mota. Stevenson is, pretty skilled. When you watch her fight, you could say, okay, maybe she could do something, pretty technical boxing, athletic, but it seems like she doesn't have the mindset to put it together. She's getting older, and I just don't like this spot for her. So I'm going to definitely go with Polyana Mota, and that's one of my more confident picks. But moving on to the last fight on the Fight Pass prelims, and it's Dodson Figueiredo, who we've seen quite a few times now in the UFC, fighting against Joseph Morales, a young guy coming up from Alpha Male. And, this is a really interesting fight. Both guys are undefeated, but they definitely aren't without flaws. Joseph Morales is a really young guy. Like I said, he's with Team Alpha Male. Uriah is really high on him. A lot of guys at Alpha Male are really high on him. he's a jiu-jitsu guy, no problem being on his back. He has really good leg dexterity, so he could throw up some arm bars, triangles really quickly. He does a good job of, even when he can't really secure the triangle, he just kind of controls your head, throws shots, controls your posture, and is just definitely very good defensively off of his back. He likes to go for arm bars when he has the triangle locked in. A triangle arm bar gets a little bit tricky. But he doesn't have good wrestling, but he'll try to get body locks, but he doesn't go for many takedowns. Isn't super active on the feet either, but he did, his fight against Sanchez in his UFC debut was very interesting because he was being dominated through the whole round, taken down, beat up on the stand-up, and then right when they got up off of Sanchez being on top of him, he landed a nice straight right hand, dropped Sanchez, and, got the submission in that one. So that was a very good performance by him. But he does have some kicks, some leg kicks, some body kicks. Tricky with his jiu-jitsu, dive on submissions. He'll attack with kimuras, rear naked chokes, standing. He does tend to go to his back willingly and stay there for too long, and in the UFC, flopping guard will lose you fights long term, so that's definitely something that he might need to get out of his game. But he does seem to have good composure, really good composure and good cardio for being someone so young. So he definitely has that, raw skill and raw potential to become a pretty big deal in the flyweight division. But Deiveson is one of the heaviest hitters I've seen at flyweight. He definitely has KO power in his hands. Stays long with his punches, has good straight punches, good hooks, a leaping jab. His best and hardest shot is his uppercut for sure, but he'll dig to the body with hooks. Cuts up the cage pretty well, but he can load up with his shots, leave himself open. He has a huge flyweight, struggles to make weight, but it doesn't seem to affect his cardio, and it really helps him in the fights because he has good takedowns with body locks and pretty good double legs as well, real explosive shots, and he's active on top with ground and pound. Will work for submissions, but more a ground and pound guy. He likes the rear naked choke. Average takedown defense, but good get-ups. Against Jared Brooks, he was getting taken down, but able to get back up and dangerous with submissions off of his back. He'll attack with guillotines, with kimuras. I did think that his last fight against, that I just said, I'm blanking on the name now, his last fight against Jared Brooks, I thought that was a robbery. It wasn't Brazil, and it was, I just thought it was a robbery. I thought he lost that fight, but he kept his O in that one, and this is going to be Morales' first fight, not in North America. He hasn't fought outside of California or Mexico, and almost all of his fights are in California. And I think Deiveson's a little bit more experienced, more dangerous stand-up, and good enough jiu-jitsu to not get caught and to be able to stand back up if he gets taken down. I think he's going to have the size advantage too. And I'm going to go with Deiveson to get the victory here by decision. And it's going to be a real interesting fight, though. Both guys are up-and-comers, and they're both definitely someone to look for, but I think they're both going to get that O pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, one of them is going to get the O quicker than the other, but I don't think either of them are going to stay undefeated for much longer, but they're definitely two flyweights to keep your eye on. But up next, you have Joe Soto versus Yuri Alcantara, and Yuri's making a quick turnaround, man. He just lost to Alejandro Perez a couple months ago in a decision where he was getting rocked quite a few times. He also got beat up pretty bad by Brian Kelleher and submitted, and also got beat up real bad before he came back and got that victory over Luke Sanders. And I just don't like this spot for him coming back so quickly, man. I know Joe Soto's coming back quickly as well, but Soto got caught in a calf slicer very quick in his last fight, and it didn't take any damage at all. It was a very quick fight, and Soto's known for being very good on short notice, man. Took TJ 5 rounds on 2 days notice or something. Beat Marco Beltran in Mexico on about a week's notice. And he already does have a victory in Brazil last year when he came in there and beat Hani Yaya. And I think that Yuri Alcantara is fading, man. We all know that he has that solid striking base, good kicks. He used to be very explosive, get a lot of knockouts. But you just see that he's not pulling the trigger as much anymore. His takedown defense isn't nearly as good. And people aren't respecting him as much as they used to. I think his explosiveness has just left him a little bit. He's 37 years old, and I think Joe Soto is going to be able to maybe lose early, but weather the storm, get in his face with boxing combinations, and he's going to be able to do what he usually does, turn it up late, use his cardio. I think he's going to hurt Yuri in the pocket with a couple of those punches, and I think he's going to get a guillotine victory. Off of stunning Yuri might go for the takedown, and I think he's going to get the guillotine. I think Joe Soto will win maybe second, third round, but I'm definitely going to go with Joe Soto in that one. I think Yuri's fading. I think this might be Yuri's last fight. Maybe he'll go, I don't know, man, but I don't like seeing Yuri take a lot of damage. I really used to be a big fan of that guy. He was a beast back in the day, when he was knocking out Von Lee, beating Wilson Hayes, knocking out Ricardo Lamas in the WEC, beating Trinaldo, who's a 70er, huge 55er, could definitely be a 70-pounder. He definitely had his moments and great career, but I think it's the end of the line for Yuri, and that's why I'm going to go with Joe Soto. But moving on, we're doing Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Marlon Vera. And this is a pretty interesting fight. Silva de Andrade has a really great looking record on paper, but when you look at his opponents, definitely fought a lot of people that aren't even close to UFC caliber. They're just regional bums, And he's an aggressive forward pressure fighter. He definitely reminds me of John Lineker, the way he comes forward, big hooks. But he does have a little more variety than Lineker. He'll throw spinning elbows. Has big power on him. He KO'd Henry Briones with the spinning elbow. That was really nice. Nice jab. Uses that to set up his other shots. Good takedown defense. And he's definitely dangerous. He can KO you. And he's fighting in Belém, which is his hometown. He's from Belém. So he's definitely going to come in with a lot of emotion early. Vera definitely has to be careful. But he loads up on his shots. He makes himself easy to counter and a little bit obvious. And when he hurts you, he'll attack sloppy and stand up very tall. And Chito is a good striker from distance, man. Throws good left kicks to the body and to the head. And he's fast with them, man. Really good speed with his kicks. Throws a nice straight left hand, nice jab. Uses good footwork, doesn't get pushed back against the cage a lot. That's how he was able to survive against Lineker and make it a fun fight. And he's dangerous with the left high kick. He could hurt you with it for sure. He's good at throwing inside calf kicks, oblique kicks to the knees. Throws nice knees to the head too and times them well on your takedown attempts. He has good cardio. He'll go for it in the third round if he's down 2-0 like he did against Brad Pickett, hunt for the kill. Everyone knows he's fighting for his daughter, so he has something bigger to fight for. He doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, but it's improving, and he has a good guard. He can catch guillotines, Kimuras off takedown attempts. He has a great corner, and they really tell him what to do really good. I'm going to give a shout out to Team Oyama. They're really up-and-coming gym, and I really like their corner work. And, they tell it like it is. They really give their fighters very good in-between round advice. They tell them exactly what the situation is well. They don't sugarcoat it, anything like that. But he's as good at catching guillotines, catching Kimuras. And I think he's going to keep De Silva at range. I think he's going to frustrate De Silva. And I think De Silva's going to start to load up again. And I think he's either going to get clipped with a knee or a left head kick. And I think he's going to get dropped, man. And Vera just has a very similar matchup that he did in his last fight against Lineker. And I think Lineker's a little bit better version than De Silva. And I think that that's very good practice for this fight. I think Marlon's going to be able to use his footwork, evade the big shots of Douglas and come back with counters and get the victory here. I'm going to say by TKO in round 2. So that'll be a good fight, though. That'll definitely be one to watch for sure. It could be fireworks. And then up next, we're coming with Alan Patrick against Damir Hadzovic. And Patrick's coming off a pretty lengthy layoff, and I'm not sure why, but he hasn't fought in, about a year and a half. His last win was September 2016 against Stevie Ray. But he was on a pretty good run, man. He'd won 4 out of 5 in the UFC. He was 4-1. His only loss coming to Taisimov, who also beat Hadzovic as well by KO. And if you know anything about Marbek Taisimov, that guy's absolute beast, man. He's linked to fighting Anthony Pettis, linked to fighting a bunch of guys. I just hope that he gets a real good matchup in the future. But he's been having visa issues. But Okay, back to Alan Patrick. Excuse me, but he's a Brazilian grappler. You know, he goes for huge explosive takedown attempts, huge explosive double legs, has no problem with commitment, man. He'll go in hard for those takedowns, and he gets a lot of them, man. He's very explosive, very powerful, very long, and he uses his striking, a lot of his striking to crash the distance, straight lefts. But he does throw some wild kicks, you know, he'll throw some spinning kicks to the body, spinning kicks to the head. And, but he really is bread and butter is he likes to, explode with the straight left, duck under, get double unders, try to get a body lock or try to get a double leg takedown. And he's very strong. He'll run through you on his double legs. Relentless with the attempts. If you can't get the double, a transition to the single. Good body lock. He wears on you, leans on you on the feet when you stand up. Grabs for guillotines, keeps control of you. Very heavy on top. And if he gets on top of Hadzovic, I mean, more than likely Hadzovic is going to be on his back for the rest of the round. Lands short punches and elbows, but he's not extremely active on top, you know, preferring position over submission and damage. But he does stay just active enough to keep the fight on the mat usually. Tremendous cardio. Also has good, back take and rear naked choke. And he's beaten some pretty high-level guys, Stevie Ray, Damian Brown. And this fight is in Brazil. And he has no commitment issues, like I said, with the shots. And one of Hadzovic's main things is his knees, timing knees. So that's something that he definitely has to look out for. Because if he gets timed on a knee on a shot, he's definitely going to go to sleep for sure, just like Marcin Held did. But Hadzovic's big and athletic, powerful, good footwork, likes to come forward with explosive combinations, attacks that front knee, like I said, straight right hand, has knockout power for sure, no problem brawling with you. He isn't afraid to take one, to give one, good cardio. He'll continue to push for the fight until the end. You know, he was down 2-0 against Held and got that perfectly timed knee. Both of his losses are by both of these guys had TKO losses to Mirbek Taisimov, but I think Hadzovic actually had a little more success than Alan Patrick did. But Hadzovic definitely has questionable takedown defense, and when you take him down, doesn't have much off his back, not attempt many sweeps or submissions, doesn't really try to get back to his feet, and he really relies heavily on winning via knockout. He's only 2-2 in decisions, and I just think that Patrick's going to be able to get him down and win by grappling here. I think that's a pretty confident pick as well. I think that as long as he's careful not getting timed with that knee and Hadzovic doesn't get the TKO finish, I can't really see a way to victory for him by decision. So just due to that and due to me just thinking Patrick is just a little bit more explosive and a little bit more athletic than Hadzovic, I'm going to have to go with Alan Patrick in that one. Then up next, we have a really, really interesting fight with Tim Means versus Sergio Moraes. And, Tim Means fallen on some tough times a little bit lately. He's lost 2 out of 3. And, after he also had the other no contest with Alex Oliveira as well before he lost to him. So, his last win was against Alex Garcia, but he did have that recent loss to Bilal Muhammad. And then also lost to Alex Oliveira by submission as well in an ugly performance, man, where he was winning the striking, decided to grapple and got submitted. And his fight IQ was just not good that night. And then against Bilal Muhammad, he just got grinded out a little bit. Against Alex Garcia, when he fought him, got the win, it was his typical performance. Able to show off that forward-moving striking, good jab, good straight punches, great elbows inside. Inside, he's a beast, man. Really, really good fighter inside. Strikes with elbows, he'll cut you up. Short knees to the body. Really, really active as well. In that tie clinch, he'll attack with knees to the head. Like I said, he really cuts you up with elbows. He did that to Sabah Hamasi, had him cut up really bad. Real good cardio as well, and he isn't the worst grappler, you know what I mean? He definitely has decent takedown defense, has good sweeps as well, and when he gets you moving backwards, man, with that jab and straight punches, gets you in close distance, start throwing those hard elbows and knees. He definitely has the volume to knock you out. And he can be grinded out, but this is the matchup that I kind of like for Tim Means, because Sergio Moraes, although he's known for being that black belt in jiu-jitsu, being one of the best jiu-jitsu players in MMA for sure, he doesn't really go for takedowns because he doesn't have a great takedown game, so he just likes to stand and bang. He throws huge looping hooks, has big power on his counter right hook, throw a front kick to the body, throws with reckless abandon, because he's not afraid of being taken down. And he doesn't have the most refined striking, so he definitely has to try to be a little bit more wild, a little bit more dangerous, and just get guys to respect him. But he is a world champion jiu-jitsu player, like I said. He'll shoot for single legs, but he doesn't set them up well. And overall, unless it's a weird scramble, I just don't see him getting on top. He is active when he does get on top, has pretty good ground and pound, and he's looking for submissions. Off of his back, he's very good, but rarely gets to show because no one really wants to go in the guard with that guy. He definitely should develop a wrestling game, but he is older and lost his last fight by vicious KO to Kamaru Usman. And I just think Tim Means is going to be able to stay on the outside, just piece up Moraes from a distance. And I think he's going to win a unanimous decision. I think Moraes is just a little bit too unrefined with the striking and doesn't have the takedown defense or the grind, necessary to beat a guy like Tim Means. And I think that's what you need to beat him. I don't think Moraes is going to be able to clip him with any of those loopers or anything like that. So I'm going to go with Tim Means by unanimous decision in that one. And now we're moving on to another great fight, man. Thiago Santos gets Anthony Smith. And Anthony Smith is a solid striker. He's been on a roll lately. Very long, and he uses his reach well. He'll throw long straight punches, leg kicks, teeps to the body, and good footwork. When he gets clipped a little bit, he loses his footwork, though, and stands right in front of you, making himself a little bit more hittable. Doesn't really check leg kicks either. He got his leg torn up in his last fight against Hector Lombard. And he starts very slow. Takes time for him to get going, and get active. But once he gets active, he has some good knees, high kicks, straight right hand. Definitely has KO power. Improved takedown defense, but I think he could still be kind of grounded and, grinded out by elite level wrestlers. And he stands up very tall sometimes and overcommits when he misses shots. It leaves himself open to be countered. I really saw that a lot in his striking. And that and the fact that he starts slow makes me worried he could get finished in this fight. But he gets better and more confident as the fight goes on, and he has back-to-back third-round finishes by KO. So his cardio is definitely great and definitely has heart. He'll keep coming. And he's been TKO'd 6 times in his career, though. And he's definitely not beaten the highest level of competition. Elvis Mutapchik, Hector Lombard at the end of his career. So this is definitely a big step up for him. And Thiago Santos is a long striker as well. Athletic beast. His left leg is one of the most dangerous legs in MMA. Brutal leg kicks, brutal body kicks, brutal head kicks. Finish people with body kicks, finishing them with left high kicks, spinning heel kicks. Throws jumping roundhouse kicks, throw front kicks. Great straight blitz combinations with his punches. And now he can strike seamlessly in both stances, man. And he'll walk you down throwing heat. Great power in his hands. He's gotten much more technical and less dependent on one straight combinations. He's putting things together better. But he has been dropped by Jack Marshman and some other guys that, should have never dropped him. So he definitely needs to be a little bit cleaner with his defense. But he is improving, has solid cardio, definitely has improved takedown defense, and does a lot of damage with elbows when you go for takedowns. He was really fucking up. Who was that he fought? He was really beating him up bad with elbows. And this guy was Gerald Mearshart and Jack Hermanson. Both those guys, they both went for takedowns. He was able to finish him with elbows and punches while they were going for the takedown. And I just think he's going to be too much early for Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith can't start slow against a guy that's just a straight-up beast like Thiago Santos. And I think Thiago's going to be able to land that left leg, whether it's to the head or to the body, and get that TKO finish early in the first round, get the crowd something to cheer for after some early losses from some Brazilians, and definitely think that he's someone to look out for in the division, man. That guy's a beast, like absolute beast for sure. He's definitely someone that could definitely creep into that top 5, top 10 level. I know he lost to Gegard Mousasi, he lost to some other guys, but definitely has improved since going over to the U.S., training at ATT, and that guy's a beast, man. But moving on, we have Marcelo Golm against Tim Johnson, and this is a really, really interesting fight, just because of the experience level of Marcelo Golm. Marcelo Golm is the exact type of fighter that gives Timothy Johnson trouble. Someone that's athletic and can move on the outside, has good footwork, good striking. And Marcelo Golm actually has good wrestling game as well, good double leg, and that's where he usually gets most of his finishes, on top. And but he does have kind of that in and out striking style, that newer breed, quicker style. 240 instead of 260, 265, where Tim Johnson is someone that could, utilize their athleticism, just like the guy that Tim Johnson got knocked out by in his last fight in Junior Albini. Very similar guy, but Albini doesn't have nearly, I think this guy's even more athletic than Albini, but just light on their feet, good striking. I think Albini maybe is a little bit more technical than Golm with their striking, but both have that same, physical attributes. But Tim Johnson, man, he's a little bit underrated and disrespected as a heavyweight, in my opinion. He's beaten a lot of very solid guys since he's came to the UFC, and he doesn't have the most boring or pretty style, so I think it gets, underplayed. He beat Shamil Abdurakhimov, a guy that has headlined in the UFC, beat Marcin Tybura, had a very close split decision loss to Alexander Volkov, in which I thought he won, and he dropped Volkov with a big uppercut. Beat Daniel Malanchek, so he's definitely beaten a lot of, pretty high caliber guys in the UFC, but he's weak to the body for sure, and has definitely been slowing down a little bit, it seems like, but he's always going to be a guy that's a big, imposing guy. I think he's 6'3", 265, and he likes to do what he likes to do, man. He likes to grab a hold of you, grind you in the clinch, hold you against that fence, try to hunt for the takedowns, even though he's not even super effective with takedowns in his fights. He wins more of his fights with cage grinding, but he does also have very good, where he's not fast at distance. At distance, people could piece him up with their, with their hand speed and with their striking combinations. But when he puts in his mind that he's going to start to get a little bit forward momentum, could run forward at you with a combination of his own, he has some sneaky athleticism, man. He's pretty explosive in his ability to catch you, and I think he kind of catches some people off guard with those explosive blitzes, and he catches them with like 3, 4, 5 punches, and that's when he can get guys in the clinch. And once he gets you in the clinch, man, that guy's a bear. He's really hard to get off you. Someone from North Dakota, and just a big old white boy, and he just hangs on you, man. And I think if he does that to Golm for a long period of time, I think Golm's never experienced that. He's only 6-0, never beaten anyone good. It beat Chris Colombo in his UFC debut, who's just a terrible fighter. He had a draw with Jarvis Danho, lost to Luis Henrique, and then lost to Golm in like 1 minute. And he's just not very good, very slow, very fleet of foot, and terrible striking, and not a good grappler either, so that was an easy fight for him to come in, get his feet wet. But, Golm is someone that definitely shows that, cool calmness, and just like thing about him, that aura about him is confidence, where you could see him becoming a big heavyweight star in Brazil, one of the next up-and-comers. And just due to that, I'm going to go with Marcelo Golm to win by first round knockout. I'll say TKO. But, don't be surprised to see Tim Johnson get this victory by, maybe a split decision, or maybe a unanimous decision, 29-28, where he wins by, making it ugly, man, putting this kid in the clinch, making him work, making him feel something he's never felt before, and just, cause this guy's never been out of the first round, man. And, Tim Johnson, for as big as he is, it as unathletic and, out of shape that he looks, has good cardio, and I think if this gets out of the first round, it becomes extremely interesting. But like I said, I think the UFC's tried to set up a Brazilian star here, so I'm going to go with Marcelo Golm to win this by first round knockout, first round TKO/KO. And we're moving on to the I think that was the first fight on the main card. So we're moving on to Desmond Green versus Michel Prazeres. And this is a pretty intriguing fight, man. Both these guys are underappreciated at 55. There's so many good fighters at 55 that some people just get lost in the mix, man. But Prazeres is a beast, man. He's been fighting in the UFC for a long time now. I think he's maybe even had 10 fights in the UFC, but he's been fighting in the UFC for 5 years now. He's won 5 in a row, man. But he hasn't really gotten that leap up in competition or that jump because he's had problems with making weight, and then in the past had problems with just only being in decisions. I think his first 6 or 7 UFC fights were all decisions, and then his last 2 most recent ones have been submission victories. So he's addressed that, where he's starting to get the finish. But his last fight he missed weight again, so he's missed weight I think 3 times in his UFC career, so that's definitely a problem with him. But Prazeres is a grinder, man. He's a grappler, very explosive and strong. Could take a lot of guys down and just hold them down, man. And he has that type of build, like a Gleison Tebow build, where he's just huge, man, just like a rock. And when he gets on top of you, it's really hard to get him off. He'll attack with that north-south choke. He really likes that position, and he's gotten that in his last 2 fights. He's gotten the north-south choke and got the win. I think he's a 3rd or 4th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he has some pretty good striking. He's explosive with his striking, where if he can get you moving backwards and he can kind of catch you against the fence, get you in an unenviable position, he can explode, land some big shots, definitely has that power. But at rage, he doesn't have the reach, and he hasn't the most refined striker, so he definitely could get pieced up at range, can get hit a little bit. And, he does have problems with gassing in the past, but more recently, he's addressed that and has pretty good cardio now. And on top, other than that north-south choke, he's very active, smooth passing. I mean, he'll go from side control on the left side all the way to side control on the right side, looking for arm triangles, north-south choke setups, things like that. And he does hold a victory over Marbek Taisimov, so that's a pretty good feather in your cap. But Desmond Green is long-rangey, very athletic, good movement, works behind his jab, good counter straight right and left hand. His left counter straight is really his money punch, and he could drop you with that. Good dangerous counters, man. He really reminds me of kind of like Michael Johnson in the pocket, where he'll stay in the pocket, throw some dangerous looping overhands, uppercuts from odd angles, and a lot of striking exchanges in the pocket when he's exiting. And it makes him I think it makes his opponents very weary of coming in on him, because weird angles, and it's a lot of power on those shots, and very hard to hit and to time. His hands are extremely fast too, and he's a wrestler first, so his takedown defense and his get-up game, extremely impressive. He's like a cat. And like Kavalov, he stuffed almost all Kavalov's takedowns. Against Josh Emmett, he was able to get some takedowns of his own to win that fight. He has good cardio, but he does find himself in close fights, and because he doesn't make some rounds convincing, because he's a counterpuncher, he moves backwards a lot. And I think maybe the refs see that, even though he's the one landing the more damage, But this is a tough matchup for Prazeres in his hometown. Even though it's his hometown, Green's going to have a 6.5-inch reach advantage, a good footwork, good jab and movement. And I think you should stay on the outside, collect points, throw nice leg kicks. Straight left is money, man. I think Prazeres is going to find it hard to get inside. I think he's going to find it hard to get it on the legs of Green, too, get him in the clinch or anything like that. I think Green's going to be able to stuff, the takedowns. Even if he does get taken down, I think he'll be able to get up. And I think I'm going to go with Desmond Green here by unanimous decision. And moving on, we have a fight with Priscilla Cachoeira fighting Valentina Shevchenko. And I watched the tape for this, man, and this is definitely a squash match for Valentina if I've ever seen one, man. Cachoeira, she's an okay athlete, and she definitely has that killer instinct, I think that's maybe why the UFC got her. But she walks forward, eating a lot of punches, and she's real wild, throws very wide hooks. And they have power, but her chin's straight up in the air, no setups. The only shots she throws are those hooks. And, she has her hands down when she's walking forward. Doesn't mix in feints, doesn't mix in kicks. Never saw her try to take it down or go to the ground. And when she got taken down in her last fight against Rosie Duarte, it seemed like she was lost on the ground, you know. She seems like a very raw talent, and I think Valentina's going to finish her pretty easily. You know, Valentina's one of the best Muay Thai strikers on the planet, man. She's one of my favorite fighters. Just love her striking. 56-2 pro Muay Thai fighter. She's transferred nicely into the MMA, man. Phenomenal counter striker. Her lead left check hook is just a thing of beauty, man. She shuts people down with that. And she uses spins to set up her kicks to the legs and to the body. She'll kind of do like a spin and, then kick you to the leg, kick you to the body, get you thinking of something else. And then she'll, almost lull you to sleep and then catch you with that spinning back fist off the counter. And when she hits that, she really likes to exit. She really exits really clean off that spinning back fist. That's just a beautiful technique. But she also likes to throw the right hook to set up her straight left. And she bings you with that straight left, man. Clean. It's like a pistol. And she likes to use a spinning back kick to move backwards. And in Muay Thai, she has a lot of knockdowns and knockouts with that spinning back kick. Really dangerous with it. And her awareness of distance is just really second to none almost in UFC. I don't know many people that have better distance control than Valentina. And her ability to return with a counter strike is second to none, man. She'll slip and land hard overhands, and her striking is just really incredible. Always balanced, never goes out of position. Strong leg kicks, and exits out after combinations, just really smooth, man. Never gets hit. And now she's rounded out her ground game. Very physically strong. You could see that by she was tossed around Sarah Kaufman at 135. Now that she's at 125, she's going to be even stronger. Nice armbar from her back against Juliana Pena, who is seasoned grappler. And I think Valentina's just going to put on a masterclass this by a perfect opponent, someone that's going to come in with some looping strikes and come forward. And I think this girl is going to come forward with that tenacity until she goes out, man. And I think Valentina's going to land sharp counters all night. And I think she's going to bloody the face of Cachoeira. And I think she's going to land a spinning back fist, drop her, and follow up with punches and get a TKO in round 2. And this is probably my most confident pick of the night right here. I'm going to go with Valentina Shevchenko to get the win in that one. And then up next we have John Dodson against Pedro Munoz. And, Jackson Mays lost 22 fights in a row, which is pretty crazy. With John Dodson and that streak, who knows. But John Dodson's extremely fast and explosive. Uses short explosions in the form of single counter punches. Good KO power in his hands, and that's why he can get away with being such low output. And when he lands, he puts you to sleep, man. But he likes to stay on the outside of your boxing range, but close enough to kick. And he'll be fast enough to get out of the way of your counters, even with the reach disadvantage in most fights. But he doesn't really commit to his kicks, but he throws fast, low kicks to get the range, and mostly just feints and gets out of the way of his opponent's strikes. It frustrates him for a while, and when they don't expect it, he blitzes in with explosive combinations or counters. And is very left-hand heavy. Throws a lot of left hands, but great speed with his left hand. Works to the body with the left hook at the end of his combinations to get his opponents to drop their hands. And then he'll go upstairs with the KO shot with the left hook as well. But he doesn't really use his wrestling in his fights, but he is a 2-time state champion wrestler. And uses it to stay on his feet. If there's a lull in the action, maybe he'll try to go for a takedown, but usually he never does. But he does have great anti-takedown defense and great cardio, great chin. Never been finished before. He's very tough, man. Against Marlon Moraes, he had a very close loss. A very close loss against Lineker as well. So he's just right there, right at the edge. I thought against Lineker he definitely should have got the win. But, he's right at the edge of being that elite at 135, just like he was at 125, and Pedro Munoz is a guy that's coming up, he just beat Rob Font, who, is a very good talent as well, and both these guys are, top 10 fighters. And, on the feet, Pedro brings the pressure, very good leg kicks, extremely hard body kicks as well, but, if you get him moving backwards, I don't think he's nearly as effective. But he likes to get in that boxing range and unload with heavy hooks, kind of that Lineker style. Stiff jab, good takedown defense. And his forward pressure, seems like it spooks a lot of people when he starts walking through your punches to try to throw hooks. And he makes people want to shoot on him, and that's when he wraps up that guillotine. Really awesome guillotine, real opportunistic with it. And doesn't have great defense getting hit, though. He'll get hit with clean shots and just keep walking through them. Great chin, great cardio. Good high kick, too. Doesn't really like to grapple or to wrestle much in his fights, but if he goes to the ground, like I said, very dangerous with his jiu-jitsu. And against Rob Font, he landed a hard hook and then got that nice guillotine on him. And I think this is just a good matchup for Dodson. I think he'll be able to wait for Munoz to come in and counter. I think he's going to be able to land some hard right hands, stick to his game plan. Dodson never really, gets crazy. He's not going to put himself in a position to get guillotined, I don't think he's going to get buzzed or dropped by Pedro Munoz. And I could see him getting his first TKO finish. I really could. I could see him catching a right hand and dropping, or a left hand and dropping Munoz, or getting maybe a left head kick. But I'm going to say it'll be a decision victory. Dodson hasn't had a finish since 2016. But I'm going to go with John Dodson to win. And I'm going to say it's by decision in that one. And then up next we have Lyoto Machida against Eryk Anders. And, Machida is just coming back very soon for my liking. He was just KO'd stiff 3 months ago, man. That's a very fast turnaround to come back. And he just did that same exact thing when he fought Luke Rockhold. Then he came back very quickly and fought against Yoel Romero. And, him doing that where he comes back right away after knockouts, I think it's just not a very good recipe, man. I think that's maybe why that he's getting knocked out so quickly. And he's always struggled with explosive power strikers, struggled with Shogun Rua, struggled with Brunson, struggled with Yoel Romero, struggled with Phil Davis, who's an explosive guy, John Jones, Quinton Jackson. A lot of these guys gave him trouble in his career. And he's also struggled with southpaws, man. And that's exactly what they're giving him in Eryk Anders. They're giving him explosive southpaw. And, I just think Anders is going to come in there with one thing in mind. I don't think he's going to respect Machida striking. I think Machida's going to be, on the back foot, man. Machida's 39 years old now. I hate to say it. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. And I just think the Anders are going to get the knockout in the first round, man. And I think that'll be probably the end of Machida, man. I just don't want to see him keep taking damage, man. He's lost 4 out of 5. His one win was against CB Dalloway, who's obviously not at that level that he's fighting at now. Obviously, I think everyone knows that someone like Eryk Anders, who's a, Division I level football player at Alabama, with that kind of knockout power, is definitely much bigger athlete, much better athlete than a guy like CB Dalloway. And I just don't think Machida has it in him, man, to pull out another performance. I don't know why he's coming back so quickly. 3 months after getting, KO'd. It's not like he got TKO'd. He got KO'd stiff, man. He was out cold. And that's a bad thing to come back 3 months later, man. And I just don't think it's going to end well for him. That's why I'm going to go with Eryk Anders by first round TKO. And for the parlay of the week, guys, I already told you that the more than likely I'm going to say that my most confident pick will be Valentina Shevchenko. And then for the parlay of the week, I'm going to say let's go with Eryk Anders, Valentina Shevchenko, and Polyana Mota to win all 3. And that'll be the parlay of the week. I just think that, like I highlighted, Maya Stevenson, all of her opponents, none of them have a win. The people that she's beaten, they're 0 for 22. Coming over to Brazil, I just don't think that's a very enviable position for her. Polyana is up-and-comer. She's someone that's very dangerous. I think Stevenson doubts herself a lot, as in the house. She was talking about how she didn't know she got there by her own merit or because of Joe Stevenson. So due to hearing those type of things and also knowing that she's going to be in very hostile territory, I'm going to have to go with Polyana Mota pretty confidently in that one. That's why I'm going to include her. And then as far as Valentina, I just think that, like I outlined, Priscilla's very raw. Valentina's one of the best female strikers in the world at this moment. And I just think there's an extremely big skill gap, extremely big talent gap. And I just don't think that Priscilla has that KO power. She doesn't have the ability to catch her in a submission. I just don't see any path to victory for her whatsoever. So that's why she's my most confident pick, and Valentina is also included in the parlay. And then for Eryk Anders, I just think Lyoto's a little bit old, lost that explosiveness. He's always worked in his career off athleticism, off being able to be hard to hit. A lot of feints, a lot of movements, a lot of slips and countering. And Eryk Anders is a southpaw. He's big, he's hungry, he's a young guy, very athletic. And I think he's going to go in there, spoil the party for Brazil, man, and get another knockout on Lyoto's record. And I think Lyoto has to think long and hard about what his next step is. But all right, guys, I hope you liked the show, and subscribe for more. I really enjoy doing these. We're really getting in a pretty good groove. I want to say I got over 100 subscribers. I know that's not really shit, but that's a lot to be. It's pretty cool to see myself grow and moving on up a little bit. So that was cool. Thanks everyone that's been supporting me, and hopefully you get the word out. Show this to your friends, have them make some money too. Something like that, and keep growing the community, man. And subscribe, like I said, for more if you're not subscribed, and if you are, thank you. Keep listening. I'm gonna keep turning it out for you. And all right, guys, have a good one.